eyeball has three layers. Three layers are that is also called coat, outer coat, middle coat and inner coat. So outer coat is covered by posterior 5/6 part is covered by the sclera and anterior 1/6 part is covered by cornea, and the middle layer is covered by anteriorly iris, then ciliary body, after that choroid, and innermost layer is the anteriorly lens and posteriorly covered by the retina. Okay, so these are all about the layers of the eyeball. So today we discuss about the sclera. Anatomically, sclera is covered the 5/6 part of the outer coat, and this anterior 1/6 part is covered by cornea, and it is the toughest layer of the eyeball that maintain the integrity of the eyeball. So posterior 5/6 part of the eyeball is covered by the sclera, and this sclera is covered by the Tenon's capsule, and this anterior part is covered by the bulbar conjunctiva. So this is the eyeball, and on the inner side there is a sclera, and this is a choroid, and there is a potential space that is called subarachnoid space. Yeah, suprachoroidal space. Suprachoroidal space is present between choroid and the inner layer of sclera. And at the point of limbus, there is a furrow, a small opening that encloses the canal of Schlemm, and thickness of the sclera. It is not uniform thickness all over the part, but it is uneven. Posteriorly it is thickest, and at the level of the where the extraocular muscles are inserted, where sclera is the thinnest part. And sclera is thinner in case of the children and females, but in case of the male it is thicker as compared to the female, and it is thickest posteriorly about 1 millimeter in thickness, and from posterior to anteriorly, when we comes to posterior to anterior, is gradually decreases in the thickness, and where the extraocular muscles 4 recti and 2 oblique muscles are inserted, where sclera is the thinnest part. And at the point of the entry of the optic nerve, there is the sieve-like structure where the optic nerves are entered in the eyeball. Then there are apertures. How many apertures are present in the sclera? In anteriorly, there is the aperture of the ciliary vessels which enter the eyeball, and the middle part there are 4 vertex vein, and posteriorly part there is the optic nerves, and here optic nerve and the long and short ciliary nerves. And where the optic nerve enter, there is multiple hole sieve-like structure that is called cribriform. Then layers of the sclera. Sclera has 3 layers. Superficial layer is called episclera. It is thin, dense and a vascularized layer of connective tissue and contains fibroblast. macrophages and lymphocytes. And the middle part is called, this one is the sclera proper. It is the avascular structure and the dense bundles of the fibers are present here. And a lamina fusca, this is the innermost blend of the sclera, and suprachoroidal, supraciliary and lamina of the uveal tract are present here. So, any kind of inflammation in the occur in the sclera, that is called inflammation of the sclera when it involves the only superficial part of the layer, that is the episclera, that is called episcleritis. When it involves the deeper layer of the sclera, that is sclera proper, that is called scleritis. Then episcleritis, it is a benign recurrent inflammation of the episclera and it involves the Tennant's capsule. Tennant's capsule covers the sclera, but not the underlying sclera, but only episclera and Tennant's capsules are involved in case of episcleritis, and below the episclera is intact. Etiology is unknown. There is known any etiology, but it is associated with the patients with gout, psoriasis and rosacea, and sometimes it is also found in case of the tuberculous reactions, endogenous tubercular and streptococcal toxins that also cause episcleritis. Then incidence of episcleritis is more common in male as compared to female, and it only affects the young adults. Then pathology. In case of the episcleritis, there is the localized infiltrations of the lymphocytes, and this of the only in the episcleral tissue is involved. There is edema and a congestion of the Tennant's capsule, but overlying cornea, overlying conjunctiva is freely movable over the episcleritis. But in case of foreign body granuloma or conjunctivitis, sclera is cornea, conjunctiva is not freely mobile. We differentiate conjunctivitis and episcleritis. Conjunctiva is freely movable in case of episcleritis. Then symptoms. Symptoms is the redness. It may be localized redness or diffused according to the kind of the episcleritis, and patient is having the mild discomfort, foreign body sensation, grittiness, burning, and then signs. Episcleritis is found in two forms. First is the diffuse form and the second one is the nodular form. In diffuse form, whole of the eyeball may be involved, and in it only involve one or two quadrants of the eyeball. This one is the. But in case of the nodular episcleritis, whole of the eyeball is not involved episcleritis. Only part it occurs in the nodular form and pink and purple flat nodules. It is surrounded by the vessels and it is 2 to 3 millimeter away from the limbus. And this nodule is firm, tender, but overlying conjunctiva is movable. Then clinical course, there is no any treatment is required. It is a self-limiting type of disease and it resolves automatically from 10 days to 3 weeks. And but in case of the episcleritis, recurrence is very common and sometimes it occur in periodically. So it is also called episcleritis periodica. Then differential diagnosis. Episcleritis is differentiated from the scleritis, inflamed pinguicula we already discussed pinguicula in the chapter of conjunctiva, and a foreign body present in the bulbar conjunctiva. Then treatment. Treatment in case of topical corticosteroids are given 2 to 3 hourly, and cold compression are given, but in this case eyelid should be closed. And systemic non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs are also given in the oral form. Flurbiprofen is given 300 milligram OD, and endomethacin is given 25 milligram 3 times a day. And sometimes oxyphenabutazone is also given. Then we come to the scleritis. Scleritis is the inflammation of the deep layer of the sclera, and it affects the sclera proper as compared to the episcleritis. Episcleritis is more common in male, but scleritis is more common in female. And the episcleritis is involved in young adults, and it involves the elderly patients. Etiology. It may be caused by the autoimmune collagen disorders, that is rheumatoid arthritis, granulomatosis, ankylosing spondylitis, and metabolic disorders जैसे gout, thyrotoxicosis, infections, herpes zoster, staphylococcal infection, streptococcal infection, and granulomatous disease like TB, syphilis, leprosy, and sarcoidosis. And miscellaneous conditions may be the irradiation injury or chemical burns, or some syndromes, Ugat Kayanagi Hardha syndrome, and Behçet's disease, and rosacea. And sometimes we made incision in case of the cataract surgery, that also causes scleritis, that is called surgically induced scleritis. And surgically induced scleritis is noticed after 6 months of surgery. And some idiopathic causes are also associated in case of the scleritis. So pathology, there is the infiltrations of the polymorph nuclear lymphocyte, neutrophils, lymphocytes, and plasma cells, and macrophages. And these cells causes fibrinoid necrosis and destructions of the collagen fibers. And after destruction of collagen fibers, there is the formation of granuloma, which is surrounded by the multinucleated epithelial joint cells. Classification is scleritis is divided into basically 2 groups. First one is the anterior scleritis, second one is the posterior scleritis. Anterior scleritis involve 98%, but posterior involve only 2%. And anterior scleritis is again divided into 2 groups. It may be non-necrotizing scleritis and necrotizing scleritis. And this non-necrotizing is again divided into 2 groups. It may be diffuse or it may be nodular. And this necrotizing scleritis, it involves 13%. It is again divided into 2 groups. First one is associated with the inflammation, and another one is without inflammation. It is also caused scleromalacia perfecta. Then symptoms. As compared to the episcleritis, scleritis is the more painful, and due to the severe pain, sometimes patients wakes up early in the morning, and this pain radiates from the jaw to the temporal area, and localized redness is present in case of the local nodular scleritis, and diffuse redness is present in case of the diffuse scleritis. And a mild to severe photophobia is also noted, and due to redness and foreign body sensation, there is also occur lacrimation. Then size. This is the inflamed sclera. It is Non-necrotizing anterior diffuse scleritis. It is the commonest type of scleritis and a widespread inflammation involving the one or two quadrants of the sclera, and it is raised red and a pinkish color in appearance. Then non-necrotizing anterior nodular scleritis. In case of the nodular scleritis, one or two hard purple or elevated nodules are present, and these are usually situated near the limbus, and these nodules are arranged in the ring form around the limbus. Sometimes it is also called appear in the annular form, and that's why it is called annular scleritis. Then anterior necrotizing scleritis with inflammation. Acute and severe form of scleritis. It is characterized by the dense localized inflammation associated with the area of infarction due to vasculitis, and after vasculitis there is necrosis of the sclera occur, and after necrosis sclera is thinned out, and through the thinned sclera we can easily see the intraocular content, because the sclera is thin and transparent and ectatic, and this ectatic condition is called staphyloma, where uveal tissue is shining, and this appears in the bluish color. And sometimes this anterior necrotizing scleritis is also associated with the anterior uveitis. इन लोग को काम बाद में करने को बोलो ना, क्लास के बाद इन लोग को काम क्लास के बाद करने को बोलो ना, क्लास कंप्लीट हो जाए उसके बाद करें. Okay, thank you. So, anterior necrotizing scleritis without inflammation. In this case, inflammation is not occur, and this is called scleromalacia perforans, and it involves the elderly females. Patient is suffering from rheumatoid arthritis, and yellowish patch of the melting sclera is present, and here due to the obliterations of the blood supply, and the overlying episclera and the conjunctival tissues are completely necrotized. It is completely necrotized, and eventually there is the large punched out area is present, that is thinned out, and a thin sclera through which the uveal tissue shines. In this case, this black color is the uveal tissue. Here sclera is necrotized and absorbed, and we see the underlying uveal tissue. Here sclera is totally necrotized. Then posterior scleritis. Posterior scleritis is very rare, and it is frequently diagnosed when we examine the fundus, and it is associated with the inflammation of the adjacent structures, maybe the exudative retinal detachments, and macular edema, proptosis, and limitations of the ocular movements. Then complications. Scleritis causes secondary glaucoma and complicated cataract, and it also sclerosing keratitis. When it involves the cornea, it causes keratitis, and there is the melting of the corneal tissues, that is called keratolysis. Then investigations. In case of the scleritis, TLC, DLC, ESR and serum level are immune complex, rheumatoid factors, anti-nuclear antibodies, LE cells are. In case of the syphilis, VDRL is done. Serum uric acid for gout, urine analysis, Montagu's test, X-ray chest, X-ray of the paranasal sinuses and X-ray of the sacroiliac joint and X-ray of the orbit are taken to rule out. Sometimes maybe intraocular foreign body is also find out. So treatment. In case of the non-necrotizing scleritis, topical steroid eye drops are given and systemic endomethacin 100 milligram is given in a day of diagnosis and after then 75 milligram is given every day till the inflammation is resolved. Then necrotizing scleritis. In case of the necrotizing scleritis, topical steroids and heavy dose of the oral steroids are given in the tapering dose. And but if patient not response in the steroid drops and oral steroids, so in this case immunosuppressive agents are given and that one is the methotrexate and cyclophosphamide. And a subconjunctival injection is the contraindicated in case of the scleritis. It causes perforation of the sclera. So subconjunctival steroid injection should be avoided. Then blue sclera. What is the blue sclera? Blue sclera is a asymptomatic condition and it appears due to thinning of the sclera. And blue sclera is found in case of the osteogenesis imperfecta, Morphan syndrome, Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, pseudoxanthoma elasticum, Buphthalmus, high myopia and Hild scleritis. Then staphyloma. What is staphyloma? Staphyloma is the ectatic conditions of the sclera. When the sclera is thinned out, intraocular content is protruding that weaker part, that is called staphyloma. Staphyloma is the localized bulging of the weak and thin outer layer of the eyeball. It may be cornea or sclera and it is lined by the uveal tissue and which shines through the thinned fibrous coat and that appears in a blue color. Here, this is the eyeball and this one is the bulging, ectatic bulging. This first part is called anterior staphyloma. Here, cornea is perforate in case of the corneal ulcer and uveal tissues are bulge here and this part is the limbus and here ectasia occur and that is called intercalary staphyloma. And then ciliary staphyloma. Ciliary staphyloma is just 2 to 4 millimeter away from the limbus. Here ectasia of sclera is occur and it is lined by the ciliary body and at the equatorial region. When the equatorial region there is ectasia occur, it is called equatorial staphyloma and when we find out it is posteriorly, it is called posterior staphyloma. So anterior staphyloma is the ectasia of the anterior part of the eyeball and in this case ectasia of the cornea is occur and iris is incarcerated in that part and it is occur due to perforated corneal ulcer or perforating injury. Then intercalary staphyloma. Intercalary staphyloma, it occur at the level of the limbus, and here root of the iris is protruded. Then when intercalary staphyloma is occur, there is astigmatism of the cornea occur, and due to astigmatism of the cornea, there occurs defective vision, and it involves the angle, so it also causes secondary glaucoma. And treatment is localized staphylectomy is done in this case of the intercalary staphyloma, and heavy dose of oral steroid is also given. Then ciliary staphyloma. Ciliary staphyloma is, here ectasia occur 2 to 3 millimeter away from the limbus, and it is lined by the ciliary body, and it occur in case of the scleritis and absolute glaucoma, and in case of the perforating injury at the level of the 2 to 3 millimeter away from the limbus. Then equatorial staphyloma, it is occur at the equatorial region, and it is lined by the choroid, and it is caused by the scleritis and generalized degenerations of the sclera, and generalized and also it was equatorial staphyloma is also noted in case of the pathological myopia. Then posterior staphyloma. Posterior staphyloma is bulging occur posteriorly, and it is lined by the choroid. It is most common in the pathological myopia, posterior scleritis, and perforating injuries. And posterior staphyloma is diagnosed by indirect or direct ophthalmoscopy, and this area is when we examine the under ophthalmoscope, we see the retinal vessels are dipping, that is just look like the cupping of the optic disc in glaucoma. So sclera is completed here, and we start new topic, that is the cornea. So today we only describe the anatomy of the cornea and inflammation of the cornea and keratitis and different types of corneal ulcer we discuss in the next lecture. So cornea is cover the anterior 1/5 part of the eyeball. Cornea is the avascular and transparent structure, and it accounts the 70% of the refractive power, and 70% of refractive power means plus 43 diopter, and cornea is the principal optical surface of the eyeball. There are the different types of refractive media that are having the refractive index. So air is having the refractive index is 1, and the tear film is 1.33, cornea is 1.37, aqueous humor is 1.33, and lens is 1.42, and vitreous is having 1.33 refractive indices. Then dimensions. Cornea is anteriorly elliptical in shape, and posteriorly it is circular in shape, and horizontal diameter is 11 to 75 millimeter, and vertical diameter is 11 millimeter. Diameter of the posterior surface of the cornea is 11.5 millimeter. When horizontal diameter of the cornea is less than 10 millimeter, it is called microcornea, and when it is more than 13 millimeter horizontal diameter, that is called macrocornea. Then radius of the curvature. Radius of the curvature is the anterior radius of the curvature is the 7.8 millimeter, and the posterior radius of curvature is the 6.5 millimeter. Thickness, conjunctiva is thinnest at the center point, and when we go to the periphery, its thickness is gradually increases, and at the periphery its thickness is 0.67 millimeter, and in center part it is 0.52 millimeter. And the central corneal thickness has the direct influence of the intraocular pressure. So center 5 millimeter of the cornea is the most powerful refractive surfaces, and when there is opacity occur in this central part of the cornea, the vision is markedly diminished. Then histology. Histologically, cornea is having 6 layers. First layer is the anterior epithelium, this one, and second one is the Bowman's layer, and the third one is the stroma, and the fourth one is Duas layer. It is also known as called pre-Descemet's layer, and the fifth one is the Descemet's layer. This is the thickest and strongest layer, and the endothelium. Endothelium is the innermost layer of the cornea. Then we describe one by one every layer. Epithelium, its thickness is 50 to 90 millimeter in thick, and it is histologically stratified squamous type of cells, and it consists of 5 to 6 layers. Then corneal epithelium sets regularly in every 7 days. If damage is occur in the epithelium layer, it is regenerate. And tight junctions in the basal cell present in the epithelium of the cornea, and that is responsible for the transparency of the cornea. Then Bowman's layer. Bowman's layer is the second layer, and it binds the corneal stroma with the basement membrane of epithelium, and it is a true elastic membrane. It is not true elastic membrane, and if this Bowman's membrane is destroyed, it never regenerate, but epithelium once destroyed, epithelium is regenerate. So if Bowman's membrane is damaged, it is healed by the fibrous tissues and causes corneal opacity. Then stroma, this is the thickest part of the cornea, and it accounts the 90% of the corneal thickness, and it is composed of the collagen fibrils, keratocytes, and extracellular ground substances, and here in stroma, lamellae are arranged in the parallel form, and that is also responsible for the transparency of cornea, and these lamellae are 200 to 250 millimeter, and they are arranged in parallel form. Then anterior two-third of the stroma, its wide is 0.5 to 30 micromillimeter wide, and 0.2 to 1.2 millimeter thickness, and posterior two-third, here lamellae are larger and here lamellae are thin, and its wide is 100 to 200 millimicron, and its thickness is 1 to 1.5 millimicron. Then Duas layer. This layer is also called pre-Descemet's membrane, and it is discovered by Dr. Harminder Singh Dua. That's why it is also called Duas layer, and it is the fourth layer, and it accounts 15 micron thickness, and it is a strong layer and impervious to air. Then Descemet's membrane. Descement membrane, it is the strongest layer, and it is homogeneous layer, and Descemet's layer is it is the basement membrane of the endothelium, and it is made of the collagen and glycoproteins, and it is elastic in nature. So when in corneal ulcer stroma is affected, then there is this due to elasticity of the Descemet's membrane, there is the bulging of the Descemet's membrane occur, and there is a sac-like structures formed, that is called descemetocele. And when pressure is increased, then this descemetocele is break, then perforation of the corneal ulcer occur. So it is elastic in nature, and this Descemet membrane is also regenerate, and it is resistant to the chemical agents, infections, and pathological process. And on posterior surface there is the Hessel-Hanle body is present, and that or increases with the age of the patients. Then endothelium. Endothelium is the innermost layer of the cornea. At birth its density is 6,000 cells per square millimeter, but with the age is increases, the number of cells is decreases, and it involves the active secretions of the protein synthesis, and contains highest number of the mitochondria and photoreceptors, and once endothelium is damaged, it cannot regenerate. Then blood supply. Cornea is a avascular structure, it doesn't have its direct any blood supply, but the blood small loops derive the anterior ciliary vessels which present in the periphery at the level of the limbus, that provide nutrition to the cornea. And these loops are not in the cornea, but it is the attached to the subconjunctival tissue and overlap the cornea. And because of this avascularity, cornea is the transparent. Then nerve supply. Cornea is the very sensitive part, and when we injury is occur in the cornea, it is very painful because of the free nerve endings are open, and its nerve supply is ciliary nerves. This ciliary nerves is the branch of the ophthalmic division of the trigeminal nerves, and innervations of the nerve supply is only in the anterior stroma beneath the Bowman's zone, and in the deeper layer of the stroma there is no innervations of the nerves. And Descemet's membrane and endothelium are not innervated with the nerve fibers, and the nerve fibers which supplied the cornea is the non-myelinated type of fibers that also causes the transparency of the cornea. Then junction of the cornea and sclera is called limbus, and limbus contains the trabecular meshwork and a canal of slabs, and at the limbus corneal epithelium continues to the bulbar conjunctival epithelium, and the Bowman's membrane continues with the lamina propria of the conjunctiva and Tennant's capsule, and stroma again continue to the sclera, and this Descemet membrane becomes the Schweppes line in the angle of anterior chamber, and the endothelium continues with the endothelium continues forward, and it lines the trabecular meshwork, and it becomes the continuous with the anterior surface of the epithelium, and then factors responsible for the transparency of cornea. So first reason is the tight junction of the epithelial cells. These are present in the epithelium that causes transparent cornea. Then endothelial pump mechanism, and the third one is it is absence of blood supply. There is no arterial or venous supply. That's why cornea is transparent. And there is absence of pigment. Here nerve supply is also non-myelinated. Myelinated nerve fibers are pigmented. So it here absence of pigment. Then a scarcity of the cells nuclei in the stroma. Then stroma are arranged in the uniform and parallel. That also causes the transparency of cornea. Then corneal analysis. Corneal analysis, to assess the corneal thickness, we do the pachymetry, and keratometer is done for curvature of the to assess the curvature of cornea, and specular microscopy is done to assess the number of cells or endothelial cells are present. And corneal topography. Corneal topographer is done to assess the surface of the cornea. So that's all about cornea. Next time we discuss diseases of cornea and the classification of corneal ulcer, different types of corneal ulcer. Then we describe one by one different types of corneal ulcers. Okay, then class is over here. Thank you.